Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you would die for them, only to discover they were willing to kill you? My name is Ibrahim, and what I'm about to share with you will shake you to your core. This is not just a story about survival. This is about the moment I stood between heaven and earth, between life and death, and met the one person who changed everything forever. Before I begin, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your country or city in the comments below. Let's connect as one family across the world, praying for each other, standing together in faith. We need each other now more than ever. Now, let me take you back to that day, the day everything changed. I was born on March 15th, 2003, in a small town where everyone knew everyone and secrets were impossible to keep. My name is Ibrahim, and I'm 22 years old now, but my story begins when I was 19. I grew up in a home where faith was not questioned. It was absolute. It was law. My father was a respected religious leader in our community, and my mother was known for her devotion and strictness. From the moment I could walk, I was taught to pray 5 times a day, to memorize verses, to cover myself completely, and to never, ever question what I was told. But I did question. Deep inside, where no one could see, I questioned everything. Why did I feel so alone when I prayed? Why did the words feel empty? Why did I sense that something was missing, like there was a hole in my soul that nothing could fill? I tried to push those thoughts away, because doubt was the most dangerous thing in our home. Doubt meant punishment. Doubt meant shame. Doubt meant you were lost. When I turned 17, something strange started happening. I began having dreams. In these dreams, I would see a figure dressed in brilliant white standing in the distance. He never spoke, but I felt warmth radiating from him, a warmth I had never felt before. I would wake up confused, sometimes crying without knowing why. I told no one about these dreams because I knew what they would say. They would call me crazy. They would say I was being deceived. Then one day, a Christian woman came to our neighborhood selling handmade goods. Most people avoided her, but I was curious. When she smiled at me, something inside me stirred. She didn't try to preach to me or force anything on me. She just smiled and told me that if I ever needed anything, I could come to her. That simple act of kindness planted a seed in my heart. Over the next year, I began secretly searching for answers. I would sneak onto the internet late at night when everyone was asleep and read about other religions. I watched testimonies of people who had encountered something powerful, something real. And the more I searched, the more I kept hearing one name: Jesus. People spoke about him differently. They didn't talk about fear or punishment. They talked about love, about peace, about freedom. I was drawn to him in a way I couldn't explain. I finally gathered the courage to reach out to that Christian woman. Her name was Ruth, and she welcomed me into her home with open arms. She gave me a Bible, and I hid it under my mattress. Every night, I would read it by flashlight, trembling with fear that someone would discover me. The words I read were unlike anything I had ever heard before. They spoke of a God who loved me, who knew me by name, who wanted a relationship with me, not just rituals and rules. Then one night, as I was reading about how Jesus died on the cross for the sins of the world, something broke inside me. I began to weep uncontrollably. I felt the weight of every sin, every lie, every moment of emptiness lifting off my shoulders. And in that moment, I whispered a simple prayer. I told Jesus that if he was real, I needed him to show me. I needed to know the truth. That night, I had the dream again. But this time, the man in white came closer. He looked at me with eyes so full of love that I fell to my knees. He reached out his hand toward me, and I knew without a doubt who he was. Jesus. He didn't need to speak. His presence said everything. I woke up that morning a completely different person. I knew I had encountered the living God. I knew I could never go back to the way things were before. For months, I lived a double life. On the outside, I was the obedient daughter, praying when expected, fasting during the holy month, wearing my headscarf without complaint. But on the inside, I was praying to Jesus. I was reading the Bible. I was falling more in love with him every single day. I knew I couldn't keep this secret forever, but I was terrified of what would happen when the truth came out. Then one evening, everything fell apart. I had been careless. I forgot to hide my Bible properly, and my younger brother found it under my bed. He ran to my parents immediately, holding it up like evidence of a terrible crime. My father's face turned dark with rage. My mother looked at me with a mixture of shock and disgust. They demanded to know where I got it, how long I had been hiding it, whether I had converted. I tried to lie at first, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I found myself speaking the truth. I told them that I had been searching for God, that I had been empty for so long, and that I had found peace in Jesus. I told them that I believed he was the Son of God, that he had died for me, and that I couldn't deny him. The room exploded. My father began shouting, calling me a traitor, a disgrace, an embarrassment to our family name. My mother stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. My siblings looked at me like I was a stranger. My father told me I had one choice: renounce this foolishness, return to the faith and beg for forgiveness, or face the consequences. I begged them to understand. I explained that this wasn't about rebellion or disrespect. This was about truth. This was about finding the God who truly loved me. But they wouldn't listen. To them, I had committed the ultimate betrayal. I had left the faith, and there was only one penalty for that. They locked me in my room that night. I heard them downstairs arguing about what to do with me. I pressed my ear to the door and heard my father saying that I had brought shame upon the entire family. He said that if word got out, we would be ruined. My mother, the woman who had raised me, who had sung to me as a child, agreed with him. She said that sometimes love means making the hardest decisions. For 3 days, they kept me locked in that room. They barely gave me food or water. They came in periodically to pressure me, to threaten me, to tell me that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. But every time they left, I would fall to my knees and pray. I prayed for strength. I prayed for courage. I prayed that Jesus would help me stand firm no matter what happened. On the 4th night, my mother came into my room alone. She sat on the edge of my bed and spoke to me softly. She told me that she loved me, that she had always loved me, but that I had left her with no choice. She said that what they were about to do was out of love, that it was better for me to die now and have a chance at forgiveness than to live in this state of apostasy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother, the woman who had given birth to me, was telling me that she was going to kill me. I begged her to reconsider. I cried. I pleaded. I told her that I still loved her, that I would always love her, but that I couldn't deny Jesus. She stood up, wiped her tears, and walked out of the room without another word. That night, they came for me. My father, my mother, and my 2 older brothers. They dragged me out of my room and down the stairs. I screamed for help, but our house was isolated and no one could hear me. They took me to the backyard where they had already prepared everything. I saw the pile of wood, the container of kerosene, and I knew what they were planning. I fought. I fought with everything I had. I kicked, I screamed, I clawed at them, but there were too many of them. My brothers held my arms while my father tied my hands behind my back. My mother stood off to the side, watching with cold, empty eyes. I looked at her, searching for any sign of the woman who had once comforted me, but she was gone. In her place was someone I didn't recognize. They forced me onto the pile of wood. The rough logs dug into my back. My father picked up the container of kerosene and began pouring it over me. The liquid was cold and suffocating. It soaked through my clothes, ran down my arms and legs, pooled around me. The smell was overwhelming, burning my nostrils and making me gag. I begged them one last time. I told them I forgave them. I told them that Jesus loved them. I told them they didn't have to do this. But my father just looked at me with contempt and told me I had made my choice. He pulled out a box of matches. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would explode. I could hear my mother sobbing quietly, but she didn't stop him. Then he struck the match. The small flame flickered in the darkness. He looked at me one last time and told me that this was for my own good. And then he dropped it. The fire erupted instantly. The kerosene ignited with a violent whoosh, and flames consumed me in seconds. The pain was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It felt like every nerve in my body was being torn apart. My skin began to blister and peel. The heat was so intense that I couldn't breathe. I tried to scream, but the fire stole my voice. The smell of my own flesh burning filled the air, a sickening, sweet odor that made me want to vomit. I could hear my family standing nearby, watching. My mother's sobs grew louder. My father stood silent. My brothers turned away, but no one moved to help me. No one tried to stop the flames. They just watched as I burned. The pain became unbearable. My vision began to blur. My body convulsed. I felt myself slipping away, falling into darkness. The last thing I saw was the flames dancing around me, and then everything went black. But death was not the end. As the pain faded, I felt myself lifting, rising above my body. I looked down and saw myself lying there, charred and broken, smoke rising from my remains. My family stood in a circle around me, some in shock, others weeping. I felt no anger toward them, only sadness. Then suddenly I was pulled away. The world around me disappeared, and I found myself in complete darkness. It was cold, empty, and suffocating. I was utterly alone. Then I heard voices, harsh, accusing voices. They whispered terrible things, telling me I was lost, telling me I had made the wrong choice, telling me I deserved to suffer. Fear gripped me. Had I been wrong? Was this my punishment? I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I was trapped in this void, drowning in despair. Then, in the distance, I saw a light. It was small at first, like a tiny star, but it grew brighter and brighter. The darkness began to retreat. The voices fell silent, and then I heard my name. Sarah. Jesus appeared before me, surrounded by light so brilliant I could barely look at him. But his face was kind, his eyes filled with compassion. He reached out to me, and I fell at his feet, sobbing. He told me that I was loved, that I belonged to him, that my suffering had not been in vain. He showed me that I still had work to do, that my story would bring others to him. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay in his presence forever. But he told me it wasn't my time yet. He said I needed to go back and tell the world what I had seen. And then I was falling back into my body. I gasped for air, my lungs burning. The pain rushed back, but something inside me had changed. I was alive. Against all odds, I was alive. When the doctors examined me, they couldn't explain it. My burns were severe, but I was healing faster than should have been possible. They called it a miracle. And it was. Jesus had brought me back. Today, I stand here as a testimony to his power. I lost everything, but I gained eternity. My family disowned me, but God became my family. I was burned alive, but Jesus gave me new life. If you're watching this, I want you to know that persecution is real. Right now, millions of believers around the world are suffering for their faith. They are being beaten, imprisoned, and killed simply because they love Jesus. I'm asking you to pray for them. Pray for strength. Pray for courage. Pray that they would know they are not alone. And if you're someone who wants to turn from your sins and follow Jesus, it's simple. Pray with me now. Say, Jesus, I know I am a sinner. I believe you died for me and rose again. Forgive me and come into my heart. I surrender my life to you. Amen. If you prayed that prayer, welcome to the family. Your life will never be the same. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more testimonies that will strengthen your faith. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and let me know how this story impacted you. Together we are stronger. Together we can change the world. God bless you all. Stay strong. Keep the faith. And remember, Jesus is always worth it.